I love literary fiction. I say that all the time. But the other day, someone asked me what literary fiction actually is, and I realized I couldn't put it into words. So I did a little deep dive to get to the bottom of it. Welcome back to my channel. My name's Marissa, and I like to talk about books and book design. So, what exactly is literary fiction? I had always considered it a sort of genre that was a when you know type thing. But turns out some people don't actually think of it as a genre at all. They think of it more as a category that can potentially be applied to any book. Other people think literary fiction is a sort of arbitrary term thrown around to make certain books seem superior, sort of an elitist type thing. I personally don't think that, but I can see the potential harm when the term is thrown around. According to Writer's Digest, literary fiction is less of a genre than it is a category. It focuses on style, character, and theme over plot. Basically, it's a term used to describe a certain type of writing style and thematic focus. Literary fiction doesn't require any certain tropes or genre expectations, which in turn means it can feature elements of any genre and still be considered litfic. Technically speaking, the book Normal People by Sally Rooney is both a romance novel and a litfic novel. It can be hard to put it into words, but you definitely know the difference when you compare it to a strictly romance novel such as Beach Read by Emily Henry. When I hear readers discussing Normal People, they often bring up the writing style or the character development. In contrast, when talking about a book like Beach Read, it's more likely that people are going to be talking about the certain romance tropes like enemies to lovers or just overall how the characters make them feel. Now, that is not to say that people never talk about the way that the Normal People characters make them feel, because trust me, I talk about that literally all the time. And that also doesn't mean that people never talk about Emily Henry's writing style. It just more so shows that literary fiction is a scale that can be applied to any book. All books have elements of literary fiction. It just depends on whether that's a low number or if it's dialed all the way up to 10. But I want to circle back to my earlier comment that certain people think that literary fiction is elitist. I can see why people would think that, because there is a certain connotation that literary fiction is this exclusive club for intellectuals. And this may be because literary fiction is often filled with complex language and or themes that might be inaccessible to the average casual reader. But personally, I think the bigger issue is the divide we see in readers when it comes to talking about academic and casual or fun reading. Let me be very clear. One is not better than the other. If you are reading at all, you should be proud of that, period. And that's no matter where it fits on the literary fiction scale. The discourse going on right now around whether booktok is like ruining literature is honestly so ridiculous, and it really does irk me. The other day, I saw a tweet of someone saying that Colleen Hoover books don't count as reading. And I'm not even a Colleen Hoover fan, but this rhetoric is what creates the divide between readers and is ultimately what gives literary fiction that snobby reputation. I think we need to step back as readers and look at genre in books more like the way we look at genre in movies. There is a time and a place for an art house film like Mulholland Drive, but I'll be damned if the next day I'm not watching Legally Blonde to balance it out. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, there are definitely movie snobs as well, but I think more so it's accepted that you can kind of dwell in the space of different genres in movies and people aren't gonna look down on you as being less intellectual as them, unless you're a film bro, in which case, bah. Which isn't that the same kind of term as like lit, is it like litfic bro? I don't remember, but maybe it's the bros. Okay. At the same time, though, I do really want to emphasize that I think literary fiction is important in itself. The sort of depth and introspection that litfic offers is really valuable and insightful on human experience. These litfic books can challenge readers to think more critically and consider their own experiences and circumstances, but also to take a moment to step outside of their shoes and, walk in someone else's shoes, which I think in general is what reading does, but it's just to a little bit more of an intense degree. And I'm struggling to put it into words, but I think it's because that's more the intent of it, where maybe a casual genre fiction book, the main intent is fun, escapism, immersive world building, and an offshoot of that is, the experience of living in someone else's shoes, but it's maybe not necessarily the focal point where literary fiction is. Again, I want to reiterate that that doesn't mean that other types of books lack value. Commercial and genre fiction can be just as culturally and emotionally impactful and thought-provoking in their own ways. So, is the term literary fiction harmful? Not inherently. The harm comes from how it's perceived and used. When people throw around the term literary fiction as like an intellectual badge of honor, it can be alienating to certain people, and that's what causes the divide in the literary community. Ideally, we should celebrate a diverse range of voices and styles. Embracing various forms of storytelling, whether or not it fits that literary label, is what enriches our understanding and appreciation of literature. So tell me, what do you think about literary fiction? Is it a term that scares you and maybe causes you to shy away from certain books? Or are you brave enough to admit that you've sometimes thrown the word around in a superior way? I don't know who would admit to that. I'm sure we've all been guilty of it at some point, but I'm personally trying to be better about it. I love literary fiction. Last month, I read 2 Diary of a Wimpy Kid books. So I'm just the one who really enjoys embracing the balance of reading different types of books. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're a fan of literary fiction, please leave a recommendation below. And that is all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I'll catch you in the next one.